The future is bright with the continued growth of AI integrating with our day-to-day lives. And today we have Matthew Domko, Head of Security at Rabbit, the pioneers and builders of the Rabbit R1 and Rabbit OS.
Matthew, it's awesome to have you on.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Good stuff. Well, Matthew, let's jump in a little. I'd love for you to give us a bit of an intro and add some color to your career to date and current role, and we'll take things from there.
Yeah, no, it sounds fun. My career is a little non-standard. Actually, it's probably not that out there. So I used to jump out of airplanes and build like networks in the middle of empty fields. So as in the Army for a bit, super fun. And you got into this like problem solving mentality of like, there's nobody else around. So like, how do I solve this problem? Started sort of getting into security really out of, I don't want to have to reimage computers all the time, because people do silly things. And so rather than just dealing with doing that, make it a little bit harder for systems to get compromised. So that sort of got me into it. And then the Army said, hey, guess what, Matt? We know you love the Pacific Northwest, but we'd love it if you moved to Georgia. I don't want to move to Georgia. And they said, well, you don't have a choice. And I said, okay. So I moved. So I went and worked there for a couple of years. Started teaching after I left. And I realized, I don't know if you've ever taken a course, but you have like this instructor that's teaching you, and you're like, I don't know if that instructor has ever done this before. Maybe they're just like saying what they're supposed to say. I started to feel that way, and that was not a good feeling. So I told myself, hey, I'm going to take a break from teaching and go get back into the field, start practicing security again. And still haven't made it back to formal teaching, but we'll see. That's I'm still young. So yeah, got back into the field, did security at Amazon, incident response at Facebook, security at Grubhub, doing all kinds of fun things. Realized I really like the small startup mentality, and end up here at Rabbit, doing so many fun things. Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I love that, coming from a military background, and obviously we get a few veterans listening to the show. But what was it, the military that drew you into cybersecurity in the first place and into the tech world, or did you know, but prior to that, what you wanted to do in a career?
Yeah. So I was 18 years old. I had just proposed to my wife, and was like, oh, I guess I need a job, right? Like I'm getting married, and the family business was the military. And so that, like, it's a great opportunity because you kind of just show up, and then they provide you with like 12 weeks of technical training in whatever job you picked. So I picked computers. And so that got me sort of started down the network system admin track. And then security just sort of like naturally came out of it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. And were there kind of pivotal moments or challenges as you moved into Civvy Street or civilian life, into tech? Was there some bigger adaptations that you had to make or found different to being in the military?
Yeah. So I think there were probably two really awesome points in my career, that since that pivot that helped put me on a good track. The first one was getting the opportunity to go work at Amazon. That was like the first time when you look around and you're like, the world is huge. I am not the smartest person in the room. There is so much I don't know, and that's okay. Because previously it was like you kind of felt like you were expected to know everything, and have all the answers. Well, like changing to a world where like it's okay to say I don't know. Let's go find somebody smarter than me to solve this challenge. That was super great for me. I also think the Amazon leadership principles really align with like the things that people tend to latch onto when they work for the military. So like that was a great experience. The second awesome piece was actually going to Facebook. They had this employee benefit called I think it's Lyra. That sounds right. It might be something completely different, but it was essentially as part of your benefits package, you can go and get therapy for free as part of like your just regular benefits. So I started going to therapy like twice a week, and I think those two things, sort of recognizing, oh wow, there's lots more smart people in the world, and hey, I should probably talk to somebody about my feelings. Both of those sort of changed my life for the better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, you can see that in your career trajectory, right? Like your trajectory from kind of being an IC to leadership was pretty rapid. You know, looking back at your kind of, I know, having looked at your resume in the past and things like that. So, yeah, it's really cool to see. Obviously, you picked that up very fast. And you know, how did it look going into that leadership, those leadership roles, especially at such big companies, fan companies as well, where you know it's not the most simple environments, you know, large teams, etc. How did that take place? And you obviously pivoted. You know, we're in cloud security, then incident response. How did that transpire?
Yeah, I so it just I really like doing nerdy things, but I also have like this really strong belief that there aren't enough people in leadership positions that are like proper leaders, as compared to like, oh, I'm a manager and my job is to just relay information back and forth. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great leaders, and I feel like everybody deserves that. Like you deserve to just show up to work and have somebody who wants to help you do great things for the company. And so like the switch sort of from 100% IC work to being more of like a tech lead, and then into more like formal leadership positions. It was mostly because I didn't see the culture that I wanted to work in, and so the only way that I can make that culture exist is to sort of put myself in a seat where I can create it. Um, and so that's how that's sort of matured, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
love it, love it. And fast forward to today, obviously now working at the bleeding edge of technology in AI. You obviously are having to tackle both hardware security and the software and operating system side. How is that right now, and balancing all those different responsibilities?
yeah, I say fun in like um, the Midwest way, or like it's different in the Midwest way. It's hard, right? Because in other roles, I really had only had to focus on like one piece of the business and one type of product. So like Grubhub, they're essentially what a SaaS company for taco delivery. And so you get to focus on like cloud security, application security, and that's just like the thing that you focus on. And then coming here, like we have the bright orange AI walkie-talkie, and so I have to focus on the physical device security, right? Making sure that when you plug this in, excuse me, when you plug this in at an airport, somebody doesn't just totally own it and now you're carrying around a microphone for somebody else. I have to make sure that the we're doing the right things when it comes to uh, application security on the device, so like the mobile app, and that's an entire field. And then we get into cloud security again, entire field. Um, and then let's introduce the new complexity that is so like privacy law has been ramping up and making sure that people understand what their data is being used for. So we've had like that growth over the last 5 years, but now we have AI, which is basically, hey, you know, all that work that we did with privacy. We're just going to take it, and it's still a computer processing your data, right? And so helping build the right guardrails around like around the privacy of the data that we're using with the AI systems. I think that's super new and super challenging, because it's not like I can just go to a um, uh, I can't even remember the name of the website, but you can go download policies from the internet and say,
Yeah.
this is my policy now. There's really not anything out there right now that says, oh, this is the right way to handle um, customer data working with AI systems. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. And zooming out a little, how we and look, nobody has really all the answers at all yet within security and AI. But where are some of your biggest concerns or areas for, I suppose, uplift in terms of security when it comes to AI, given the exposure you've had thus far?
Yeah, this is this has been a really fun role for me, because uh, at Facebook, right, you're worried about nation state actors, you're worried about criminal organizations, you're worried about all of these things, but you have a huge budget and so many people to sort of solve all of those um, bigger problems against well-funded people with lots of time. This is the first time that I've had to deal with people like actively targeting us, and not had a giant budget and a bunch of like friends that I also focus on security to sort of deal with that with. Um, and so like joining, uh, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I see a lot of places that we can do things, but the minute that you start like getting targeted, it sort of changes the way that you act. And if I could go back in time, like I think I wouldn't change my focus at all. I think that I would focus on like the first principles of security that we sort of expect everywhere, and just rely on those, because at the end of the day, like I'm not going to be able to stop um, certain things, and so rather than staying up late worrying about them, maybe focus on the things that are achievable. There's like repeatable patterns for how to secure that place. So time machine me would go back in time and do that. But I don't have a time machine, so the focus now is really getting back to basics with the team. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of us saw um, Caleb Seamer's keynote speech at B-Side San Francisco earlier this year,
Yep.
and everyone was waiting for these big grandeur moments of like, how's it going to affect the role of a CISO? And it was still managing the team, budgeting, and it was all the standard kind
Yeah.
of competencies that you see of a CISO, of a head of security at a startup. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to see that not a lot shifts when it comes to defending our companies right now. Maybe that changes, but I think what's really interesting as well, and you probably maybe have an interesting take on this, but what tools do you think are going to be? Where are you most excited to see the security product world go with the utilization of AI?
So I still don't know how to feel about it. And I've got friends who are founders that are like working in the AI security space. And if they listen to this, they're like, "Oh, Matt's going to talk about us," and I might, but not in a good way. I still worry that we're at this point where like things it's really easy for us to provide too much trust in that thing that we don't understand. And so as we integrate AI into tools that we provide to engineers, I worry about the efficacy. Right? Would we be better served
Yeah.
just doing the thing that we usually do? Now there are a couple of things that I think are super useful, and I've talked to some folks. I haven't checked back to see like if that's going to be a feature that exists, but think about your interactions with ChatGPT. You can go in there and tell it, hey, this is how I talk. Here's a sample blog post. Write me a blog post that sounds like Bruce, that talks about uh, dogfish, because like that's you're the coolest sea creature in the world to you. Um, and it'll write a blog post that sort of reads like you wrote it. I think that there's a lot of room in our security tools for the way that we give findings there's a different way to talk about a bug that needs to be fixed or a patch, depending on the type of company that you're in, depending on the like the national origin of the engineers that are solving the problem, depending on the culture of the company. And so I think that uh, like one quick win for anybody that says we have AI in our product would probably be to scrape Jira for all of the bug tickets that humans created, and then start creating security bug tickets in a language that people like actually resonate with, and it doesn't just sound like security says you need to do this, or we're going to shut off your system. I think that there's a lot of really cool opportunity there. Um, outside of that, I really don't know. I still think it's too early to say like AI is going to solve this problem for me. Um,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the biggest problems that I see kind of in the tech ecosystem at the moment is the hype, right? There's
right,
this hype that like we're at the point of achieving AGI and, and that we haven't, it's just going to run our daily lives for us and our jobs for us and give us solutions that we didn't think existed. But that's not the case yet. I think everybody needs to be cognizant of that. We're building, right? I met with a security product company just last week that are building. Um, they're building kind of an AI solution for within the SOC, right? And everyone says, "Oh, you calling them out and saying you're not there," and blah, blah. It's like, no, they're not. They're building. They're still in like building. They're still getting POCs done and customer feedback, and the Gen AI space and LLMs are moving at this kind of up and to the right in terms of progression. And I think like there's this over expectation. It's like a new movie comes out and everyone hypes it up, and then you go and see it and you're like, oh, that wasn't great. I thought Napoleon was like that, by the way. Didn't really enjoy it. But I think like there's that case at the moment within tech. It's we're all going to be walking around with Tesla's new humanoid Optimus robot next week, and it's going to be mopping our floors for us and answering all of our questions and things like that. We're not there, and I think it's really interesting that there's so many. That there's the perception of like, hey, turn it on when autonomous vehicles. We've been at that for 10 years in earnest, really, and the progression is insane, but we're still not completely there where all of our roads are filled with autonomous vehicles, unless you're in San Francisco and you see Waymos on every corner, or Zooks, right? So I think it's really interesting to see that, like that level of expectation and hype when actually everybody's just building right now, and a lot of people really were just building the foundation at that point as well. So. Yeah, I can imagine it's similar with Rabbit as well.
I think that's where we're going to get very good at things. Is sort of the types of measurement that you need in order to perform a good like data science experiment. So when I was working at Facebook, one of the things that we were really interested in on the SOC was what are you doing to close this case, right? Like what data sources are you going and getting data from?
Yeah.
What's the false positive rate of this rule? What are what are all the steps that you took? And then if somebody goes back and checks your work, were you right? Were you wrong? What data were you missing? Um, we were getting very good at collecting those like key points of information. And if you can collect those key points of information, well then yeah, it's really easy to sort of tune an LLM to call tools for you, or to provide output that's useful based on the inputs. And so if we over the next 2 years just get really good at measuring our processes, I think that's a win outside of we can have AI do stuff with it now. Like, does that make sense? I don't know. Like, I'm excited about a click this button to say yes, that was the right call, and a graph that says my engineers are able to process like 500 security events an hour, and this is the quality of that like processing. 500 is a lot. Maybe five.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how does it allow people to level up in their role, right? And I think, like you say, it's not going to replace jobs, but it's going to improve efficiency. It's going to allow us to cover more, have a safer environment within tech. And I think that's really exciting. So it's I know there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work out there, and it was a lot of fun in May sitting down with you and getting to see like the progress of the R1 and the different things that it can do, and and how it learns as well from its own experience. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Are there any really cool and exciting features on the R1 that you're excited about that you can talk about at the moment?
So we've got an alpha test going on. Like this is a closed alpha. We brought in some community members to play with teach mode, and I'm there just sort of making sure that everybody's paperwork is in order, making sure they're not doing anything risky. And then somebody posts a story about how they're using Bland, which the only reason I know about them is somebody at B-Sides MSP did a talk about like red teaming and distracting people using AI telephone calls. So they actually connected their teach mode session to Bland, and what they're doing is making phone calls from their Rabbit uh, to people that they know to like give them updates on things or to themselves. And it's neat because Bland is one of those places where you can upload a 45-second audio clip, and now it sounds like you, it talks like you.
Yeah.
It's not great. My wife was not entertained whenever I called her from it. But like it is possible, and it's just like a neat thing that you can do. So I kind of feel like at every place I've worked, we end up spending some time building those basic like Lego blocks that you need to build really cool security automation. So like the first thing that I built at like 3 different jobs was, let's build a security data lake and let's set up a pattern for just running Lambda functions that will get data and take an action. Once we get that pattern down, life becomes easy. I think that those tools that we're building for like customers right now, those basic Lego blocks, I think they're starting to come out and be useful in a way that, yeah, somebody can set up an account with Bland, and then, hey, I have a doctor's appointment today. Can you call them and tell me I'm going to be late? And then like your R1 sits and waits on hold for you at the dentist's office. It's like, hey, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I think it's pretty cool. It's
Really
not
cool.
without sort of like the need for guardrails, which is like another space. Again, we talk about how fun it is to work at a place like Rabbit because AR guardrails were never a thing that I needed to think about at other companies. Yeah.
Very cool. I love it. And I'd love you just mentioned about how cool it is to work at Rabbit. I'd love to shift gears back a little bit to
Yeah.
career and talent chat. But what are some of the unique challenges? Or let me reword that. What are some of the kind of shifts in security roadmap you've had to make going from, hey, I've worked at big companies like Grubhub, Fangs, in Amazon and Facebook. What are some of the kind of security roadmap shifts that you took into consideration when joining a startup?
So I think the difference between being at a startup and like a company that's been around for 20, 30 years is how far out you formally plan, right? So at Nielsen IQ, I had a 3 year plan for how I wanted the program to go, and it was
Yeah.
like super reasonable that we would achieve that plan because like what's the likelihood of a company that's existed for 100 years going out of business? It's fairly low. What's the likelihood of a startup to last another year? That's also fairly low. And so it really comes down to making sure that we're prioritizing things that we can solve immediately and have big impacts versus things that, like, yes, we should really have a third party risk management program. Like that's a thing that needs to exist. But do I need to pull an engineer off of developing a product to build that program out right now, or should I wait a couple of months and reassess? And so, like, it's this tricky point of when do you start planning to scale your security program? And so yeah, hence focus are basics right now. Um, I had a fun. Oh, that's actually I remember. One of the executive boards that I worked with in the past. They really just wanted to hear like this Eisenhower matrix type of thing,
Yeah.
and it's really just uh, how long will it take us to solve the problem? Is it a little effort or a lot of effort? And is it going to kill us or is it just going to hurt us? And so, sort of solving the things that we can fix quickly and might kill us, solve those immediately. Things that will kill us and might take more time, we should have like planned effort towards those, and just sort of validating this is the right choice for us to put our effort into.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's really great advice. And I think I get this question a lot, right? It's, hey, I'm a security leader. I'm currently at Netflix or I'm currently at Facebook, etc. What, Bruce, what can I do to get myself into an AI startup right now? Like I want to best prep myself to be a success, to land the role, but then also to be successful in
Yeah.
the role as well. What advice would you give to leaders that are looking to move out of let's say a FANG or an enterprise sized company into an AI startup? One of the ones for me I give is lose the prissiness of title, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's not about that. It's about the scope of the role, etc. But what about for you? What advice would you give to leaders that are at larger companies right now that want to move into a startup, particularly with an AI?
The title is definitely a thing to be aware of. So I joined as member of technical staff,
Yeah,
and I worked here 6 months, I think, before we switched it over, because depending on the size, like that doesn't work. Um, the other thing is like you're benefiting at that FANG company from like tens of years of some of the smartest people you'll ever work with building the ideal system, uh,
yeah,
and you're going to show up in a place that is on a shoestring budget to make magic happen for their customers, and so you don't get to say things like, well, nothing goes into prod unless it's CI/CD. Like that can be a goal, and that can be a thing that you help with, but you don't get to just dictate requirements
yeah,
because everything that you dictate um, is a cost, right? We're taking an engineer away from a feature to meet that thing, and so I think the thing that like founders want to hear is that you're not that person that just swings a security stick around. You're that person that recognizes there's only so many hours in a day, and like let's work together to find the most important things for us to fix. um, I think that's uh, the most valuable thing that I bring to Rabbit, and I think that's the thing that made them want to work with me.
yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And I think, yeah, you've got to lose almost the guardrails on your own career, right? You've got to be able to go in and be ready to go, right. I'm going to put a whiteboard up and I've got to build this.
Yeah.
You might have a load. Let's say I always like it to analogy of like you've got a jumbled load of a Lego and I might build a car, like and you got to figure it out. And I think some people struggle with that, and that weeds out. Are you right for a startup? Are you not?
Yeah.
Etc. As well as obviously, do you have an appetite for liquid cash, or are you open to some risk on
Yeah.
on your equity plays? But no, yeah, and I suppose to wrap up, final question here. Looking ahead, where do you what excites you the most, just in tech as a whole? Is there a project out there or a startup out there that excites you the most? And why is that?
So, and this is a thing that we're building to, but like I hope that somebody beats us to it. Identity for for customers using AI systems is super difficult, right? Because we've built this process for the last 30 years around how do we prove that you're human, and how do we like manage your username and password. And so what I'm really looking forward to finding or building is sort of like a Plaid. You heard of Plaid? They like
Yes.
manage banking credentials and stuff. I want a Plaid for AI. Like if that could just exist tomorrow, my life would be so much easier. I would sleep so much better at night. But until then, like we're working with Piano to try and build our own, and it's essentially like let's do OAuth for things that don't support OAuth.
Right.
And so it's neat, it's fun, and that's what I'm most excited for. I want somebody to beat us to it though, because I don't want to have to maintain this thing. It'd be so much better if it was somebody else building for hundreds of customers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matthew, you're an absolute gent. You're a true technical creative, and I think it's really exciting. You know, you're true. Everything you guys are doing over at Rabbit, it's pioneering. It's exciting. I'm really excited to see where it leads and how security fits in the world of AI as well. You're also driving that innovation. I appreciate you coming on today and taking the time to speak with us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everything flourish in the future. Everybody, thanks for listening. Until next time on the Open Source Podcast, keep innovating.